Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're talking about width. Now this is a topic that I've been asked a lot about, and it's I think it's going to be the last episode video of the body series. I'll link the playlist here. In that I talk about curve, I talk about your vertical, petite versus tall, and I talk about your flesh type, and that's, soft versus angular. And I think this kind of rounds it all out, because at the end of the day, all these things play together and they create what impression we get from you and how clothing fits either well or not well on your body type. So if you missed any of those, like I said, I'll link it. Please do check it out because they do top one another. A couple of announcements that I've got courses coming. My body type 1 is already recorded and ready to go. May 31st is the launch date. These are going to be really breaking down the body types. And yes, I do it here on YouTube. So you might be thinking, well, what's the difference? I'm actually going to be talking about a few body types I've never talked about here on my channel, and I've reserved them for in-person clients. And it's kind of like if you didn't fit in a certain body type and you're kind of in between, or you feel like the system doesn't work for you, it may be one of these 3 other body types that I've come up with. They're not in the Kibbe system, but they're working off the theory of it. And it has helped so many of my clients feel heard, oh, finally I figured out why I wasn't fitting in the system, especially if you're constantly getting different answers on the quizzes you take online, or you've gotten analyzed and you get different results. It's because maybe you don't fit in the system, and that's actually very common, more than not. And Kibbe is just one man. He doesn't know every single body type that exists. And I think there needs to be an expansion more than a set rule. I look at it as a spectrum, so I'm going to be talking all about that in my course, as well as going into further detail on what I'm doing today. And I know a lot of people asked about breaking down curve by body type. That'll be in the course as well for you guys. So the sign up link is down below. Sign up if you're interested, because if you do, early sign-ons get 10% off the course price. And I've also linked down below all the courses, so you'll see I've got one for essences, I've got one for doing your color analysis at home, as well as a style masterclass. This has been asked more than anything, is how to put together your body type, your coloring, and your essences into one look. This is essentially what I do with my one-on-one clients, is give them their personalized style based on those 3 things. So in this course, I'm going to be walking you through exactly how I do it. You're going to become your own personal stylist. You're even going to get my beautiful layout for my guides for my personal clients, 20 pages of you to fill out for yourself as you go through all of the courses. I will note that the Style Masterclass is actually for people who already know their essences, their body type, and their coloring. They just don't know how to put it all together. There's going to be a bundle as well if you want to get all the courses at once, to get it at a lower price as opposed to doing them one by one. Lots to choose from, and this all came from me not being able to stretch myself out for every single client. I want to empower you to do it yourself and feel like you can do this. You don't need to have a personal stylist if you can't afford it. You can still get great style and feel like yourself. And I just can't wait. Can't wait for you guys to see it and hear your feedback. That's it on the announcements. Let's get into today's video. So what is width? Now, if you ask someone who doesn't know what Kibbe is, you would think it's just literal width. And in that case, it can be from muscle, it can be from flesh, and it can be from bones. When you look at it that way, most and a lot of people do have width. And you'd think, if you're listening to the Kibbe sections or the Kibbe types, a lot of people think they have width. It's very, very common. to think they have width, and it's very common for people to not realize they have what Kibbe describes as width. Now, I always like to take on the theories of Kibbe and to make them my own, so this may not be exactly how he does it, and that's the key. I don't want to be Kibbe, I want to be Mylène, and this is how I view it. To me, true width is when it really does impact the way your impression is. Giving is showing, and how clothing really reacts to that width. If you have true width, clothing's going to feel suffocating. It's going to feel like you have to go up a size in those areas. It's gonna feel very, very constrained by certain fabrics. Extremely stiff, no shape fabrics is going to, or sorry, too much shape fabrics is gonna feel very constraining. Anything that has very sharp edges to it is also gonna feel way, way too much. Now, let's just break down the types of width and which ones need to be accommodated for or are found, I guess, in those width body types, and the ones that don't need accommodating. It's not gonna be your main feature, and it's okay if there's width there. There are other things taking stage. First kind of width is, by definition, the main thing that kind of defines, or one of the main things that really defines your body type. And this is the one that gets constrained by very stiff, very structured pieces. Anything like a button-up shirt is sometimes too much. A very dramatic looking, stiff, structured top is just the death of you, basically. You just feel so restricted in it. Everything feels tight. You may have to go up a size. It never sits right. And that's because you have generally blunt edges. What are blunt edges? Sharp edges look for corners in fabric. So if you looked at or watched my soft versus angular, you'll see what I mean by the fabric, when it has sharp corners, is looking for a match of a sharpness. And that's with our bones or with any kind of angles in our body. That's what it's looking for constantly. When it's blunt, it's not soft, it's not angular, it's in between. And it has a lot to do with the type of flesh that you do have. So that video is important to watch to understand this. When you have width in Kibbe, it means that you have blunt edged bone structure with this in-between kind of flesh. It's not quite soft and it's not extremely angular. There are a lot of elements to it that can be very angular, and there sometimes can be elements to your skin or your flesh that's very soft. So the flesh on its own is not determining your width. Okay, so we can eliminate that the flesh is the main culprit. The second thing is your muscle type. Now, because of the flesh, yes, plays a role. It has an element to it that kind of mixes in with your muscle. So it can collect more in certain areas and add width. So if you were to bulk up, those areas are just going to get wider. But alone, the muscle's not doing all the work, because if you just never worked out, you would still have width. So that can't be the main culprit. Bone structure is really key here. Now, this means if you were to lose weight or gain muscle, lose weight, whatever, on the flesh side of things, you still have width. That means when we narrow it down that way, your bone structure is playing a big role here. However, I cannot stress enough why I did this video last, is because all the other things play such a big role. Your vertical line. If your vertical line is quite short, width can have a big impact here. If it's very tall, can also have a big impact. But again, bone structure and the types of bones you have also plays a part. Delicate bones versus strong, larger bones will also have a big impact. Let's break this down. I know I threw a lot at you, and I know this one can be quite confusing to people. And again, there's a reason I put all the other videos ahead of this so that you really understand why width comes last. If you have large or moderate medium bones, you have muscle that when you gain it or work on it, expands in those width areas. And if you have flesh that's not quite extremely soft and not extremely angular, you're going to be the perfect recipe for width. Your height then, what happens with it? It's going to exaggerate it, or you need to play it down a little bit. If you're very tall and you have this extreme width, you play up the width. You really show it off. And you actually want to exaggerate it in a way because the height is really holding that stature in a frame that can really handle that width. If you're on the shorter side and you do happen to have width, you're gonna have to start playing a little bit more with your proportions and balance things out a little bit. You're still honoring it because width is beautiful, but you're not gonna have the same rules as someone who's very tall. So there are different types of width, and that's what I'm trying to get to. So today I'm only going to focus in on that have tall width and have short width, and then in the middle, what happens with the two different kinds of flesh. Where does width acquire? It can acquire in the shoulder area. It can acquire also in the hips. Now, everyone thinks width only exists in the natural family, and to an extent, yes. It can also, though, appear in a few others, which are the body types I have not discussed before, but I'll talk about them today in at least the rules on how you can still work with your width when you aren't in the natural family, or the three main natural families that we know about. Let's start with tall width. Now, again, you can have width on the shoulders as well as at the bottom. It can move around, that's fine. As long as those things that I talked about are present, then you, my friend, have width. Beautiful width. And it needs to be showcased in this instance because you're tall, and I've talked about this a lot, you're more like a willow tree, or you're more of a stature. And in that case, let's amp up. Let's celebrate the width. Let's really play it up because it can be beautiful. However, we don't want to suffocate it and make it into something that it's not, because in that case, we're not honoring it and we're not really giving it a little kiss and saying you're beautiful. We're trying to work against it, trying to fit it into something that it's not. That's not honoring. That's going against it. However, this can be done if you're trying to achieve a certain look, like you want it to be opposite, go for it. If you're mean or dramatic and you really want to work against the width to create an effect, have on ya. Go for it. In this instance, I'm talking about harmony and how we're really honoring this width here. So if we have it in our shoulders or in our hips and we're tall, we want to play it up. How do we do that? By draping things, by having no construction. Bluntness doesn't have a construction. If you think about it, it's a very, like a waterfall. It's in between soft. It's not quite angular. It's in this zone that doesn't have a definable feel to it necessarily, but you know it when you see it. And this bluntness has power in it. So if you have this beautiful length here and this power here, let's celebrate it. We can add drapery, we can add angles on it. It's all giving it this kind of element of putting it on a pedestal without suffocating it, without trying to diminish it in any way. We're really honoring it by draping it over. If that muscle's quite intense underneath the flesh and it kind of mixes in with it, you always kind of look a little bit muscular, even if you don't work out. It's because of all the combination of those things with the bones, the flesh, and the muscle working together to create this width. Plus you have this height. You want to do drapery, you want to do asymmetrical lines. It's kind of giving it like I said, a little bit of a showcase, a little bit of a in the spotlight without it being the main event. You're working it into your height, essentially. So when we're doing height, I talked about this in the vertical, we really want to emphasize or honor the fact that you're very tall. So we're doing that by mixing in the width. And that can be with things that are very oversized, large bell sleeves. It can be puffier, not puffy in this way necessarily, but like no construction in the shoulder. That's really giving the bone structure and that width its moment to shine. It's holding up the fabric. It's being the structure that it's needing, technically, without being super angular. The way dramatic is just wanting everything to be a sharp line. This is becoming the hanger. I've talked about that a little bit too, that this extreme width is on its own like a structure. And we just want it to cascade on. We want it to shine by just letting it be the structure it's going to be. If it's not in your essences, do not worry about it. There are ways to do it. I talked about it in my shopping guide videos, and there's more to come on that, so definitely doable. Basically, what happens when we constrain things is then it becomes a focus, but not in a way that's honoring it. It's becoming a focus where something doesn't feel right. They feel stuffed in. And that's what we'll look at. We'll almost feel uncomfortable looking at you because it feels like, oh, you really just stuffed everything in, and it doesn't feel natural on you. It feels, sometimes women with this width feel like they've become linebackers, or all of a sudden they feel like they're very masculine when they are quite feminine. In and of itself, it's not a masculine trait. It's when we try to fit it, stuff it into something, then all of a sudden it becomes very masculine. Again, if that's what you want to do, then go for that. There's nothing wrong with it. That's with vertical. A tall vertical, a long vertical. If we go into this kind of medium zone, a moderate vertical, it's not super short, not super tall, then you still want to do the same rules, accommodate it, but there's going to be a little less of that width here sometimes. There can be a lot of it in the hips as well. Especially when we go into the moderate and softer side flesh, we're going to find width in other areas because our flesh is also kind of coming in a little bit and playing a role. That width is still going to be present if you were to lose weight, but you're always going to be fleshy. So we can't discount the flesh completely. It's still playing a little bit of a role. It still needs to be brought in, hugged in, and part of the package with the width in the shoulders and in your hips. So, same rules apply that I just talked about with letting things breathe. You want to do the same thing with your hips. Constraining them is not the way to go. Why? Because it's not primarily all flesh. It's got bone, it's got muscle, and it's got a little bit of that soft flesh sitting on top. So when we constrain it, we're again not letting it be what it is, which is this beautiful combination of all three things that needs a little bit of breathing room to move, to feel natural, to really not accentuate, but to really honor the fact that there is width there. So it's those softer fabrics, kind of more of a flowier feel to it. It's not constraining it. It's not causing it to feel like a body type that it's not. We're really just honoring the fact that there is width, and we're saying this width can hold its own without us stuffing it or overly, going on the opposite side of things where it's like super structured. We're letting it be in this beautiful in-between zone, which naturally it is. And with your shorter frame, you just want to take it in a little bit more. You don't want to go as wide shoulders, not wide, but super unconstructed. There's a little bit, we're going into a tad more construction because you lost that super long line that keeps the unconstructed on a frame. It's condensing the frame a little bit. And what happens if you do try to dress like the tall width people, is you're gonna just drown. Now the width and the frame are not dancing beautifully. In fact, your width takes over, and then that's when people feel really stumpy. If you have a moderate frame and width, you want it to be, like I said, not so extreme. So you're taking it all in a little bit more. You're tapering a bit more to kind of honor that softness. You're not, again, still not putting shoulder pads and strong corners here. No. We're still blunt. We're just not doing large drop sleeves. We're not doing large bell sleeves. We're kind of taking it in, reining it in, and bringing tapering into it. So that's at the waist, that's at the wrists, or here if we wanted to. Anything that naturally is going to taper with that added flesh is still honoring the width, but we're now honoring the second layer, which is that flesh that's coming into play a little bit more. And it's having a bit more of a moment with the width. And with our hips, we want that to also be quite flowy, but not super oversized and not super long, because again, your vertical is not the main thing, it's flesh and width now. So we're playing with those two beauties and letting the vertical kind of go medium. You're not going hard on the vertical is what I'm trying to say. So that's midi length things, and then we're gonna still honor the softness by bringing in the waist, not extremely so, but just a little bit, and there's a lot more flow, a lot more softness on that fleshy part that also has width and has that muscle. And so now we're just kind of honoring it by letting it breathe. And honestly, you guys, when you do that, that width there becomes like your favorite part of your body, because you're honoring the way your softness is working. You're working within a frame that has width. So here again, you can do a lot on the flowy things, and I love, guys. This goes for talls too, down to the petites that have width. I shouldn't say petite, I should say short, because petite implies delicate bones. So please use short when I'm talking about this, and I will make sure I use that going forward. Scarves, guys, on width is probably your best friend. You can use it in so many beautifully wrapped ways. It just adds that flow, that drapery that width needs to breathe. And oh my gosh, the width looks so beautiful when you do that. It just is holding up that beautiful scarf in there are so many ways to do it. You can make it into a poncho, you can make it into a wrap, you can make it into kind of like almost like a cardigan with a belt. There are so many ways to do it. And I strongly urge anyone with width in the shoulders to do that, because it does look stunning. It's what your width was made to do, to hold those beautifully draped, unconstructed fabrics and materials and shapes. Okay, and now this one that does not get talked a lot about, and I think there is this type of body type a lot. It's like, okay, I'm not moderate, I'm not tall, and I don't have delicate bones. So I'm not petite, but I'm short, and I cannot handle what the moderate or very tall width people are wearing. What the heck? This is where people either think they are, but they're actually petite, or this is a true category, you guys. This is real, and I see it all the time, where there is this width going on, but in a very condensed frame. And the width is not coming from just flesh. It's not coming from only bones. It's coming from sometimes both, right? Flesh and bone and muscle, I should say. Or it's just bone and muscle and no flesh. But they're these shorter boned people, but the bones themselves are not delicate. They're just short. This does exist, and it's never talked about enough, I don't think. And I get a lot of clients that get frustrated. So I'm here to tell you that this is a body type, and there's other parts to it, of course, and I talk about it in my course. But here with the width, what's so great about it is it has a lot of the same categories or same rules that maybe a moderate would, but we're gonna bring it in even more. It's like you took a soft gamine or a flamboyant gamine and you mixed in a natural and created a body type. What? Yes. And it's not classic enough to be, moderate all over. There is width present. They've got that flesh, or they have angular kind of flesh or soft kind of flesh mixed in with their muscle, mixed in with that bone structure that's adding that width there. And guys, because there's such a short vertical line, a lot of times they feel like that width is just getting so exaggerated that it makes them look shorter. So in this case, balance really does come into play, and we do need to honor it, yes, but also bring in a little bit of balance. And so how to do that is you are still honoring that sweeping, that not adding sharpness or too much structure to the width areas, whether it's in the shoulders or in your hips. But you're bringing in the other elements that I talked about with shorter bone structure. You're going to look for cropped versions. You're going to look for things that aren't down past your wrists. You want to bring things a little shorter. And you don't want excess fabric. You don't want things to feel big and oversized at all. So you're shopping in the petite section, but you're looking for things that honor that width, that the other width body types that everyone knows about is following those rules. So you can still use scarves, but they're going to be smaller scarves. You're going to still use open collars and open necklines and lots of drapery, but you're keeping it petite with the cropped versions and things that taper in maybe, or just have shorter lines all around. So when we honor the short bones and the width at the same time, the width can shine, you guys. Then it looks exactly how width should be, beautiful and honored. And you're also at the same time honoring your short bones. All right, guys, I think that's it. If you have width or you suspect that you might have width, let me know down below. And if you want to sign up for my courses, any of them, please drop them down below. The link will be there. Just let me know which course you want to sign up for so I can send you the appropriate code for your 10% off. If you have any other questions, do let me know down below. And I've revamped my one-on-one packages, so those are now live and ready to go. All my information is down below for you guys if you'd like to book one-on-one with me. I hope this series was helpful for any of you with your curve, your flesh, your vertical, and now your width. That's all going to be linked up above or down below, whichever. I hope you all have a beautiful width honoring day.